Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining today. We're going to take a day's break from the Bhagavatam because it's the disappearance day of two really amazing personalities. And a little bit we're going to carry on with the theme of being looked after or protected, just like this bhajan that Karuna just sang, how Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, when will that day come when I am treated by the Vaishnava as his own? So it's a disappearance day of Jagadish Pandit, and we'll talk about him in a minute. And also it's a disappearance day of Jiva Goswami, very important personality of one of the 6 Goswamis. We'll talk about him as well. So this is a nice verse that comes from the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Jagadisha Pandita Haya Jagat Pavan Krishna Premrit Amrita Vase Yena Varsa Gana. Translation: Jagadisha Pandit, the 15th branch of Lord Nityananda's followers, was a deliverer of the entire world. Devotional love of Krishna showered from him like torrents of rain.
He was born in the town of Gauhati in modern Assam. His father's name was Kamalaksha Bhatta. Both of his parents were devotees of Vishnu. When they died, he came with his wife Dukhini and his brother Hiranya to Mayapur on the shore of the Ganga, where they built a home near that of Jagannath Mishra. So they were similar age to Jagannath Mishra. Jagadish Pandit became Jagannath Mishra's very close friend. Jagadish and his wife Dukhini had the same kind of parental affection for little Nimai as Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi themselves. Dukhini was like a mother to Nimai and even sometimes acted as his wet nurse. Nimai, the son of Sachi, is none other than the son of Yashoda. So that's Lord Krishna himself, Supreme Lord Krishna incarnate. It is not possible for anyone but an eternal associate of the Lord to have the good fortune to treat him like a son in this way. This is really extraordinary. Nimai, one time, he begged for Jagadish's offering. So this is a really amazing pastime. Gauranga showed through his pastimes just how dear he considered Jagadish Pandit to be. Gauranga is the father of Sankirtan. So he started this Hare Krishna movement, chanting of the holy names, especially on the streets. And even as a child, he tricked everyone into chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is a really interesting picture. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sachi Devi in the garden. Mahaprabhu's crying. So we'll see why. Sachi and all the other neighbors would clap their hands and sing the names of the Lord in order to make him stop crying. So when he was little, he would cry and cry and cry and cry and cry until the ladies started chanting Hare Krishna, and then he stopped. But on one Ekadashi day, Nimai kept on crying despite Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra's chanting the names in the usual way. So his parents became confused and anxious, and in desperation asked him, "What do you want, child? What must we give you to make you stop crying?" Nimai answered, "Today, they have made a rice offering to Vishnu at Jagadish's home. I want to eat some of that prasad. Give me some of that prasad and I will stop crying." Jagannath Mishra was amazed to hear Nimai say such things. How could he know that Jagadish Pandit made a rice offering on Ekadashi? Normally on Ekadashi, you wouldn't necessarily cook grains. Sometimes you would, just for the Lord, but maybe you wouldn't cook grains. Jagannath Mishra immediately went to his neighbor's home and was surprised to see that a large offering had indeed been made to their Vishnu deity. And it was a rice offering. Jagannath told Jagadish of Nimai's request. And Jagannath Mishra also said he was a little worried that it wouldn't be correct for Nimai to eat rice on Ekadashi day. So Nimai Pandit was quite strict actually. He wouldn't eat rice on Ekadashi. And he even one time instructed his mother when he saw her eating grains on Ekadashi. He said to her, you must do it, must observe Ekadashi. So, but Gauranga's eternal associate, Jagadish Pandit, knew that it was little Gopal in the form of Nimai who was hungry. Without any hesitation, he gave the entire offering to Jagannath Mishra. As soon as Nimai received the plate, he immediately stopped crying and joyfully started to eat. This pastime is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adhikand chapter 4. The Lord grabs the things of the devotee, even if he doesn't offer them. So this is something very special. A little bit like the spiritual master. He will treat the property of his disciple as his. Of course, he'll just use it for the Lord. I remember Guru Maharaj would often request us or tell us, order us, do this, do that on behalf of the Lord. And of course, we would be very honored to do that. But he shows no interest whatsoever in gifts of non-devotees. So non-devotees can give him everything, like Duryodhan. When Krishna came to Hastinapur as the peace messenger, Duryodhan had a chapan bhog. He told Krishna, I heard that you like chapan bhog. And I have made chapan bhog for you. I have arranged for chapan bhog to be made for you. Come and eat. Of course, he was very arrogant. Krishna said, no, it's okay. Thank you. But I'll go and I'm going to go to Vidur's ashram. Duryodhana was shocked. Vidur, he lives in a hut. You can come to my palace and enjoy. It's okay, Krishna said. I'll go to the hut. Krishna joyfully went to Vidur and Vidurani's ashram. And there Vidurani had very simple prasad, right?
Shag.
Yeah. Spinach sabji and roti and a banana. And Vidurani was so in ecstasy that the Lord had come. She peeled the banana and gave him the peel to eat, and he ate it. Extraordinary. And Vidur said, what are you doing, Vidurani? You're giving the Lord the peel of the banana, not the banana. But the Lord ate the love of the devotee. He relishes that. So he takes things, even if the devotee doesn't offer it. This is the sign of a pure devotee. He took everything from Srila Prabhupada, right? Took his family, took his wealth, took everything from him. But of course, he gave him the whole world in return. But so sometimes this might happen to us, right? We might get bereft of something. And if we take it in the wrong way, then that's our misfortune. If we take it in, yes, this thing has gone, somebody's taken it from me. Oh, well, Lord's mercy. It wasn't meant to be. My karma. Something I've done in the past, I owed that person, it's gone. Krishna, thank you so much for fulfilling my debt from my previous life. Then you can live very peacefully and happily, and you can be rest assured that the devotee, the Lord will always look after me, look after the devotee. But the non-devotees, even if they offer him everything, he won't care. He's not interested. There's no love. What he's looking for is the love. That's the missing ingredient. Just as Mahaprabhu was conquered by devotion of Jagadish Pandit, so too was his dearest companion, Nityananda Prabhu, who considered him to be his own intimate associate. Nityananda Prabhu was Jagadish's life and soul. Jagadish was present in Panihati. for the Chirdati Mahotsava. So he was pretty old. Jagadish and Jagannath. Before taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu ordered Jagadish to go to Jagannath Puri to preach Krishna Bhakti and the religious practice of the age, Harinam Sankirtan. So again, this is something very special. When the Lord tells you, do this, my goodness, that's real privilege, real honor. When he arrived in Puri, Jagadish went for Jagannath's darshan and melted with love when he saw him. When on the way back to Bengal, however, he felt extreme separation from Jagannath. Jagannath Dev saw Jagadish crying and so mercifully appeared to him in a dream and told him to take his vigraha, his form, and serve it. Simultaneously, Jagannath appeared to the king of Orissa and ordered him that at the time of Nava Kalevar, when the wooden deity of Jagannath is changed, the outgoing form should be given to Jagadish Pandit. This is extraordinarily rare. Normally, this deity would be put under the ground, isn't it?
Buried,
in a garden.
Buried in there.
Yeah. Thus, when the king met Jagadish, he considered it a great honor to give him Jagannath's outgoing form, which is known as Samadhistha Vigraha. Jagadish prayed to Jagannath, asking him just how he could possibly carry the heavy figure of deity all the way back to Bengal. Now, if you recall, when we were watching the Rath Yatra, it took so many devotees to carry Jagannath, but actually Jagannath was dancing, right? Jagannath answered him, he would become as light as a cork. Jagadish would simply cover him with a new cloth and then carry him with the help of a staff. Jagadish would have to make permanent arrangements to stay wherever Jagannath was sat down on the ground. So Jagadish instilled the aid of two Brahmins, and they took turns carrying Jagannath as far as the village of Jashora on the banks of the Ganga, near the town of Chakdaha. Jagadish left Jagannath with one of the Brahmins and went to take his bath in the Ganga. Suddenly, the Brahmin found that Jagannath was becoming very heavy and he no longer able to hold him up. Thus, when Jagadish came back from his bath, he saw Jagannath sitting on the ground and realized that the Lord wanted to stay in that very spot. Chakdaha is a historical site and an ancient holy place. During the Puranic age, it was known as Ratvarma. Pradumna killed the demon Sambara, which we'll come across shortly. There, during Krishna's incarnation at the end of Dwapar Yuga, and it was also known as Pradumna Nagar. Prior to that, when Bhagirath was Bhagirath was bringing down the Ganga in order to save the Sagar dynasty, he buried the wheel of his chariot here. Thus, the town was also given the name Chakradaha, which in time has been transformed to Chakdaha. When the local people heard that Jagannath deity from Puri had come to stay in Jashora, they flocked there in their thousands to seek his darshan. This is how Jagadish decided to remain in Jashora rather than return to his home in Mayapur. Both Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the Jagannath temple in Jashora on 2 occasions, being attracted by Jagadish Pandit and his wife's paternal devotion. They held Sankirtan and a feast both times. As the Lord was about to leave Jashora to go to Puri, Dukhini began to cry from the imminent separation so intensely that the Lord agreed to remain behind in the form of Gaur Gopal deity. At first, Jagannath was kept under a butter tree near the Ganga, and later the king of Krishna Nagar, Krishna Chandra, had a temple built for him. Jagadish Pandit's temple is currently being managed by Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya. In the course of Kapoor's household life, they had a son named Ramabhadra Goswami. So this is the Jagannath deity, and there's Gaur Gopal next to him. I haven't been there personally, but it'll be amazing one day to have darshan there. Chakdaha. This is the Jagannath temple of Jashra at Chakdaha, the home of Jagadish Pandit. Jagadish Pandit ki jai. Any questions, any comments? This is a really phenomenal, phenomenal personality.
Haribol Navi.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This temple, this Jagannath, is not near Vrindavan, is it? There's one on the Parikrama mark. There's supposed to be some Jagannath temple there as well.
No, I think this is in Bengal, probably going towards Mayapur.
Going towards, okay,
Mayapur,
yeah.
yeah.
But there's sort of similar sort of thing, which is Jagannath date was given, and no, I heard some other story that he was sent to Jagannath from Vrindavan, and then he comes back, and then there's a deity. That temple is there also, looked after by some, but it's like just off the Parikrama marg, I don't know.
Interesting.
Going more towards the Yamuna River.
Right.
You go past all the temples and everything, and then you go on to the other side towards Radha, somewhere there. But anyway, I might have to, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Hare Krishna. So also it's the disappearance of Jiva Goswami. So let's have a look at his amazing life. He's very dear to us because he's got some amazing books which we've delved into a little bit. Srila Jiva Goswami was the nephew of Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. He was a son of their brother Anupam. He was born in the year 1511 at the village of Ramakeli, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first met Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And he displayed all the charming features of a Mahapurush, divine person. He had lotus eyes, high nose, forehead, broad chest, long arms, and radiant golden body. When he was a baby, Sanatan and Rupa placed him at the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, who then touched him with his lotus feet. Jiva said he had a very vague remembrance of that time when he touched the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. He engaged in pure devotional activity from the very childhood. He was averse to mundane sports. He would make images of Krishna and Balaram, dress and decorate them with jewels and flowers. He would offer sandalwood pulp, pay obeisances with tears in his eyes. He would offer them sweets, take prasad, distribute it to his friends. This is when he was little.
Yeah, actually I heard that he had deities actually of Krishna Balaram.
Oh, okay. What is this then?
He's make
images. Making images. Yeah.
And then he had Krishna Balaram for a long time. He was really attached to those deities. And it's only once in his dream that he saw Nityananda and Chaitanya. That's when his focus moved.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so here he is. Jiva was so attached to Krishna that at bedtime he would embrace his deities and fall asleep.
Yeah, we had Krishna on one side and Balaram on the other side.
His parents thought he was only playing. But the villagers rejoiced seeing Jiva's love for Krishna Balaram. The sight of little Jiva sitting still and gazing unblinking upon his Krishna Balaram struck awe in the eyes of all who saw him. Rupa Goswami later made arrangements for Jiva Goswami's education. He gave money to Jiva Goswami's family so they could help him with his studies. Thus, even in boyhood, Jiva Goswami became a great scholar in Bengali, Sanskrit, Urdu, Arabic, and Farsi. He was an unparalleled scholar of Sanskrit, especially of Sanskrit grammar. In school, he also quickly mastered poetry, logic, and philosophy. Srimad Bhagavatam was his life. Krishna Katha filled him with happiness. No one dared to speak to him about anything except Krishna. He dreamt of Lord Chaitanya in Sankirtan. He was overwhelmed with love of God, and after the age of 20, left home to go to Navadvip.
I heard that he was actually 11 when his father died when he's a bit younger, and his mother actually passed away, and he was only 11 and he went to Navadvip because he had that dream. He wanted to see Chaitanya and Nityananda.
Might be wrong. Yeah.
And I think he went to Vrindavan when he was 20 because that took him around, and now they did parikram and things like that.
True. Unfortunately, Jiva Goswami, Mahaprabhu had already left. So he was born in 1511. Mahaprabhu left 1524 for the spiritual world. His associates were all devastated, as he was. However, he met Nityananda at the home of Srila Pandit. By the grace of Lord Nityananda, Jiva visited all the holy sites in Navadvip Dham. Lord Nityananda blessed him by affectionately placing his feet on his head and ordered him to go to Varanasi to study Vedanta Sutra and then Vrindavan. This was a time when, they visited all the sites, and Nityananda told Jiva that in the future there will be a huge temple across the Ganga. So that was the prediction of GOVP. He then traveled to Varanasi, where he studied scriptures with Madhusudan Vachaspati, disciple of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Then he went to Vrindavan, where he came under the tutelage of Srila Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. After humbly serving Rupa Goswami by washing his feet, preparing his manuscripts, editing his books, he received Diksha. So he was a scholar. As we know, he had many languages under his belt. And he was a preacher as well. So he was very strong in his conviction and faith in the Lord. Once during a summer, Rupa was writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu while Jiva Goswami was fanning him. And Vallabha Bhatt from the Pushti Marg, he came by to see Rupa Goswami. And they are contemporaries, so similar age. And Rupa Goswami was very respectful to Vallabha Bhatt. After reading some of Rupa's introductory verses, Vallabha Bhatt suggested some corrections. And Rupa Goswami accepted them. He accepted Vallabha Bhatt as a senior. He was very humble, although he was extremely knowledgeable. And he is, of course, Rupa Manjari, who's the head of the Manjaris. So no fool, amazing personality, very humble. He could have destroyed Vallabhacharya's comments, but his humility shone through. When Vallabh went to the Yamuna to take a bath, Jiva Goswami followed him on the pretext to fetch water. So Jiva Goswami heard the corrections. He didn't like it. How dare you correct Rupa Goswami's work? So he went after Vallabha Bhatt and he told him that you're wrong. And he demanded to know, what fault did you find in Rupa Goswami's work? So then when Vallabhacharya told him, but Jiva Goswami then pointed out the flaws in Vallabha Bhatt's arguments. And he countered every one of Vallabha Bhatt's objections. So then Vallabhacharya, he returned back to Rupa Goswami's hut, impressed with Jiva's scholarship. He recounted the entire episode to Rupa. And Rupa, he was not happy. Rupa Goswami, he rebuked Jiva. Why can't you tolerate? Vallabhacharya is older. He's a learned Vaishnava. So Rupa Goswami, he said to Jiva, you're not fit to live in Vrindavan. Go back to Bengal. Come back when you're ready, when you're calm. But he didn't do wrong. He did right. Jiva Goswami did right because why did he do right? Because the spiritual master was being corrected, but the spiritual master wasn't wrong. So it's the duty of the disciple to defend the spiritual master. Absolutely right. But it's also true that humility and tolerating and respecting an elder sannyasa personality is important. Thus banished from his presence, Jiva left Rupa Goswami's dwelling, but rather than going back to his family home in Bengal, as he was told, he went to Nandaghat, nearby village. Hoping to regain his guru's favor, he began to practice rigorous austerities, worshipping Krishna intensely while fasting and eating on a bare minimum. As a result of such penances, his body became emaciated. One day, Sanatana Goswami came by there and was moved to see Jiva's condition. He took Jiva with him to Rupa Goswami and arbitrated on his behalf. And of course, Rupa Goswami forgave Jiva Goswami and affectionately blessed him. Srila Prabhupada once commented on this guru-disciple pastime. Sri Rupa Goswami was happy inside that Jiva defeated Vallabhacharya, but he cast him out to teach us that the devotee to teach us a lesson. It was not done to teach or punish Jiva Goswami, who's a liberated soul, eternal associate of Krishna. So Rupa sent Jiva out of Vrindavan to teach all Jivas what he wrote in Upadeshamrit, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jiva Vegam. A devotee should control his tongue, his speech, and always remain humble. Very interesting. Srila Jiva Goswami was the youngest but most prolific writer amongst the Goswamis. He's a super excellent Sanskrit scholar. He wrote a astounding 500,000 Sanskrit verses. That's 25 books. And I think many of these books are still, they've managed to save them, haven't they? No, the Jiva Institute.
No.
Or is it some of them?
It's only a little
handful.
Bit. Yeah, only a handful.
Jiva Goswami would compose Sanskrit verses in his mind and write them down without changing anything. Write them down means he used a metal stylus to permanently etch them into palm leaves. This inscription method left no room for erasing. They didn't have Tipex at that time. Editing, rewriting, or running a spell check. Yet each verse was a priceless gem of perfect meter, rhythm, poetry, and meaning. He was the greatest philosopher in all of Bharatiya history. Contemporary Sanskrits call him the greatest scholar who ever lived. His books show that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy gives the essence of Vedic wisdom and the perfection of religion. Anyone who faithfully reads these books will become a devotee of Krishna. Some of his most important books are Sandarbha, which describes the ultimate end of devotional service, establishing the transcendental truths of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also confirms that Lord Krishna is the absolute supreme personality of God, Swayam Bhagwan, and the cause of everything and the source of all avatars. The Gopal Champu, this is a book that we do refer to. I think Karuna sang a bhajan from this song, this book, where Yashoda Mai is glorifying Krishna's activities before the Damodar Leela. So this book gives a description of the transcendental mellows of Lord Krishna's eternal pastimes in Vrindavan. Harinam Vyakarna, Sanskrit grammar, every Sanskrit word and every letter was understood to indicate Krishna, the nectar and name of Sri Hari. The following quote comes from Jiva Goswami Nectarian Gopal Champu, which describes the playful Vrindavan pastimes of Radha Damodar.
Govardhan Hill, a large form of Govardhan manifested. All the Vrijvasis, along with Krishna himself, then offered obeisances to that towering form. As Shri Krishna stood by with folded hands, the great personality of Govardhan bellowed, "I shall eat all your offerings." He ate and drank water by emptying all the kunds around the hill. While eating all the preparations made by the Rajavasis with his right hand, he snapped the fingers on his left hand. The cowherd man ran out of the way when Govardhan stretched out his hands to take more and called out, "Aniyo, Aniyo, Aniyo." Bring more, bring more, bring more.
So there's a devotee called Satyanarayan Das, very good author actually, who translated the Sandarbhas into English. And he gives this explanation of Jiva's name, because it's a little unusual to have this name Jiva. Jiva means soul, right? Actually, Sri Jiva Goswami's name Jiva is very interesting when considered in the light of the Bhagavad verse, Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatuspadam jivo jivasya jivanam. Animals without hands are food for those with hands. Those without feet are food for the four-legged. Everywhere one jiva, living entity, is food for another. So another meaning of jiva is one who gives life to others. Interesting. So the spiritual knowledge given by Jiva Goswami in his 25 books gives life to all the devotees. So it's a very interesting interpretation of his name. Another name of Jiva is Jivaka, one who makes Jivas emit static sounds, like the chanting of the Mahamantra. And Srila Jiva Goswami did this by supplying the esoteric meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam through his Bhagavad commentaries and the Sat-Sandarbha. One who expands the nature of the Jiva, his relationship with the Lord, and the process to achieve the goal, the ultimate purpose of life is Jivakan or Jiva. So after the disappearance of Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, Jiva Goswami became the Gaudiya Sampradaracharya to guide all the Vaishnavas in Navadvip, Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri. Although he was undisputed leader, he always acted as humble servant of all the Jivas. Whenever Bengali Vaishnavas visited Vrindavan, he would lovingly receive them, arrange for prasad and comfortable rooms, even guide them on Braj Mandal Parikram. At the request of Acharani Janavadevi Thakurani, Jiva Goswami had Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shyamananda Prabhu take the Goswami's writings from Vrindavan to Bengal. They translated them into Bengali, distributed them throughout Bengal. They also preached extensively and initiated hundreds of devotees. And this is his dear deity, Radha Damodar. So his life is these deities. So this deities in Vrindavan, very, very beautiful. Prabhupada lived in this temple many, many years. From this temple, he came to the West, and he would return to this temple many times until they built Krishna Balaram temple. In this temple, they have so many Radha Krishna deities. On this side, the main deity is Radha Damodar.
And the Govardhan Shila.
And there's a Govardhan Shila there, yes. Okay. In 1942, Jiva Goswami, 1542, yeah. Jiva Goswami established the worship of Shri Radha Damodar in Sevakunj, Vrindavan. The Samadhi stands in the temple compound. He is Vilas Manjari in Radha Damodar's Nitya Vrindavan Leela. So he's a Manjari. He appeared on Bhadra Shukla Dwadas, and his disappearance is in Paush Shukla Tritya, which is today. Jiva Goswami ki jai. Any comments, any questions, please? Naniben. Anything you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you have mentioned one book, Satya Sandarbha book.
Yes.
Come across this book? You have it?
It's a commentary on the Bhagavatam, and it establishes Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead.
Because when I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, I found you mentioned this book itself. I know. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, correct. Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay. Jiva Goswami ki jai. Jagadish Pandit ki jai.